Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Teri Nicole on the podcast. She's a cycle and yoga instructor coming to us all the way from Sacramento, California. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Teri, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Great to be here.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired and what motivated you to get in shape and, really adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle?
Well, ever since I was a kid, I was into sports, just going out and playing outside, and then going into school and playing softball, volleyball, and basketball. And after high school, started joining a gym. Kind of addicted when I was about 19.
Oh, that's awesome. So, and I mean, I always love to say, if you were to walk into the gym with 100 people, I mean, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape, whether it comes down to their diet, their nutrition. I mean, how many reps they do, what exercises they do. Was that a struggle for you starting out to sort of find out what worked best for your body specifically? Because I always say, I mean, if you were to walk up to someone and say, like, hey, what do you train for this body part? Like, it looks amazing. What works best for them 99% of the time is not going to work as good for you.
Going into the gym, I wasn't really scared to be in there because I started lifting weights with a boyfriend, so he
Mhm.
knew what to do and started helping me with that. And everybody's different, and you're learning every day. Like I'm still picking up things in the gym. I see a guy doing exercise. I was like, oh, what's that for? I'll try it the next time. So you're just constantly learning every day, new exercises, new ways to work out and shock the body.
Yeah, I mean, I always say, like you're like a mad scientist where, I mean, basically you're just trying to make your own concoction, trying to figure out what works best for your body. And it's so much trial and error. But that's like with a lot of things in life too, as well. But I mean, I love to ask because everyone's genetics are differently. So it always makes everyone's story interesting. But when people get started working out, everybody always has that one body part that really, really takes off that, I mean, they don't have to really train as much. And then everyone always has that one body part that really just lags behind that they sort of have to train to overdrive. I mean, I'll give you my example. So for me, I mean, my back, I mean, I've had jobs all throughout college where, I've been like loading trucks and, doing all that type of stuff. So my back is, I can train, like once a month and it would still look really, really good. But I'm also 6'3". So my legs and my lower body are just shot where I have to train them into overdrive just to get them to look any semblance like anything. But what were those body parts for you?
I'm pretty lucky. I guess I have good genetics. My mom, I'm half Korean. She's Korean, and she's
Mhm.
never lifted a weight in her life. My upper's not bigger than my lower. My lower's not bigger than my upper. I kind of just work everything together. Of course, I don't work my forearms. I don't work my calves. Some things
Mhm.
I just think you get a lot of workout doing other bigger body parts.
Mhm. Yeah, I always say calves are my least favorite just because that's the number one genetic thing where you see people that just have really huge calves and you're like, oh my God, you've never done a thing in your life with them. And I'm one of those people where I always say, like, I could do 10,000 calf raises a day. I could inject pure muscle into my calves and they wouldn't even grow. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's just so depressing for me. But I mean, I mean, one of the stereotypes that I love to bust, and it's gotten so much better. I mean, the last 5 years with Instagram, but it's still, unfortunately, a significant problem is that a lot of women have that fear that if they walk into the gym and they, do one curl a day, do one push up or just one of anything, I mean, they're just going to hulk out and put on, 50 pounds of muscle. Did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I mean, how do you like to respond to that? Because, I mean, it still is a pretty big issue.
Probably when I was younger, but that's 28 years
Mhm.
ago, I started lifting. So I just kind of got into it. But the second biggest stereotype to me now that I dislike, and I'll tell you my first one after,
Mhm.
is because you're not gonna. A woman is only has so much testosterone in her body. So if she's taking testosterone, then yes, she's gonna look like a man. Or your genetics determine how your body's gonna look. You want to lose fat, you're gonna have to lift heavy, and the more muscle you have burns more calories. So
Mhm.
that is the biggest myth. And yes, it still goes around. I don't want to lift heavy. I just want to, I want to lightweight and I want to tone. I want to tone, and that's just it's false.
Yeah. So, what was your inspiration into becoming an instructor?
Well, in the 1995, I was in the Secret Service. You don't know my back history yet, and I was in the uniform division, and I got certified as a personal trainer through Cooper's Clinic in Dallas, Texas. Once that happened, I never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up until I got certified as a personal trainer from the Secret Service, which made me a physical fitness coordinator for them. And that was my passion. It was like, I got to get to the academy, I got to train the recruits. That's my passion. So um, I ended up being a firearms instructor because that's what you had to go through first. And then I got married, 9/11 happened, and I ended up quitting.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, normally at the questionnaire part where I ask like, what is something that most people would never guess about you
Yeah.
if they met you in person? That you thought I was like, yeah, Secret Service. Yeah. So were you? I mean, were you in the? Were you? How did you get into the Secret Service? Like, how does one become a Secret Service person? Like, what is the application process? How do you get into that?
Well, my father was Secret Service Uniform Division for 26 years. He retired as a lieutenant.
Mhm.
And since I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, I got in the Secret Service. And for Uniform Division, it's different than the special agents. People don't know that also. Special agents are plain clothes, they protect the president. They're primal security. Uniform Division is kind of outer secure perimeter. And that's what I went into. It's kind of like White House police, or then they have the foreign missions branch. So there's a lot that people don't know if they're not, because I'm from DC originally. I
Mhm.
moved to California when I was 37, probably 38.
So did you work in the White House?
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna ask. I don't want to get any classified information out of here. We don't. I don't
Yeah.
want to, have. I don't want to, go disappearing and they find me in a forest somewhere. So yeah, we're gonna leave it at. But yeah. So how did I mean? One of the things that I love to talk about with people with their jobs is that some people have jobs where I mean they acquire that determination, that drive that really helps them on their fitness journey, because it's one of those things where if it's a lot of times you want to quit and a lot of times you really just need that perseverance. Do you think that being in the Secret Service really helped you with that drive and that determination when it comes to your fitness journey, that really just to keep going and keep pushing even on those days when I mean you're basically just tired and dead and your body's just telling you like just give up?
Yeah, when I was 19 and I started lifting, I got basically addicted, and it was that whole gym meme. Sorry, I have to go to the gym. So my boyfriend's like, "Oh, we're going to dinner with my parents." No, sorry, I have to go to the gym. So that started then, and then being in the Secret Service and training all the agents and officers in firearms and doing their physical fitness tests. I really wanted to help them. I mean, we didn't have to be this fit to keep the job, even though I believe that you should have some kind of a standard. So helping them and putting together workout routines and stuff like that, because we did have time on the job to work out, which was great about that job.
And I mean that is awesome. So what would you say would probably be the biggest misconception that people have about the Secret Service in general?
They don't know about the uniform division. I
Hmm.
mean, they think agents. They're like, "Oh, you talk like this in your sleeve and all that." And
Hmm.
yeah, you do if you're in plain clothes, but most of the uniform division is in uniform. We're
Hmm.
canine. We're the emergency response team. We're the counter sniper team. We're instructors. We're sergeants, lieutenants, captains, inspectors. Agents are plain clothes. They're totally different, but together.
I mean, and that's so awesome. And again, like I had no idea anyone that she was in the Secret Service, so that just leads us into like a whole different rabbit hole. Because I was gonna, so we'll just talk. I mean, I just have a few more Secret Service thing questions that are just popping in my head because part of my podcast tour also I like to have veterans, or I like to have people that are in the military come on and share their stories. So I mean, this is kind of like almost a double feature for us being in the Secret Service as well. But when you were in the Secret Service, I mean, what was your? I mean, without getting into details, what was your day to day? What was it like?
Well, when I first started, you go in as an officer, and whether you're at the White House branch or at the Foreign Missions branch, you have specific duties. So the White House is where I went. So we monitored and protected the grounds of the White House, the U.S. Treasury Building, the old executive, and the new executive office buildings. And then Foreign Missions patrols the streets, and they do the chancelleries and the embassies. But when I started, I did the White House and I did the grounds, and I worked the midnight shift, which I loved because I would work out on the midnight shift. I worked in the command center, the command post with the dispatch and where all the alarms are at and stuff like that. And then I became a recruiter. Then I did tours for a short period of time. So I did tours of the White House. If you're visiting the White House and you want to give a tour, I'd be one of the ones giving you a tour. And then I went to the academy and became a firearms instructor, and then I trained new recruits coming in.
I mean, I know you got used to being in the White House, but I'm also, I mean, I'm a business major, but I'm also a history minor, and I would have been a history major, but I didn't want to become a history professor because that's like the only thing that you can really do with that. But I mean, just the history, is it one of those things where you can feel it kind of being in the White House? I mean, like this is where all of these presidents have lived, and all of these great decisions have, or all these decisions have been made, and I mean, all of this history with it. Can you feel that when you're in the building?
Yeah, it's pretty neat being inside the White House. I mean, I never got a chance to go up to the residence floor. I wanted to work out instead, so I missed
Yeah.
that tour. But yeah, it is really neat, and I do take for granted living in that area for so long. If you have a chance to visit the DC, Washington DC, I recommend it.
I always say, I mean, I did an East, I mean, I've been to, my family's a huge baseball family. So if you can see these monkeys behind me, they're actually rally monkeys that they have at stadiums. So when I was like 8 years old, we went to all these stadiums. I think I've been to like 20 of the 32 Major League Baseball stadiums. And we did go and we went to Philadelphia and I saw, like where the Declaration of Independence was signed. And that was cool enough in itself. We never did a tour of the White House or anything, but yeah, just, I mean, just all that stuff is just so fascinating to me. So when you said like you were a recruiter, what are you looking for specifically in a candidate for being in the Secret Service?
First and foremost, you have to have a clear background. I mean,
Mhm.
that's major. That's the most important thing. I mean, you're protecting the president.
Mhm.
You're around all that, and I mean, our backgrounds were even more not not better, but I think a little bit more strict than even like the FBI and some of the other departments, just because of just what you're in. I mean, the knowledge it's hard to explain, but
Yeah.
just having their background, just being good, making good choices when you're a kid is like if anybody's interested in that, it's a great job. You have laterals to jump to agent, you have laterals to jump to other different agencies. But just I
Yeah.
mean, some obviously has their stuff together, good shape, good head on their shoulders.
Good luck finding it in this generation. That's what I'm. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, I mean, because I always say, especially with the health and fitness part, going back to that, one of the biggest things that I always say is that especially with my generation, everyone wants it now and they want it yesterday. I mean, they're not willing to put in the hard work, or they don't realize how much work it's gonna take. Because I like to compare, to sort of like being an alcoholic as someone who wants to lose weight. If you're an alcoholic and you go one day without drinking, that is significant progress. Where I mean, you can like actually see some results. Whereas if you go to the gym for one day and you look in the mirror, nothing's going to change. You're going to look exactly the same, where it's just going to be like, oh, wow, I got to, I got to keep doing it. But it's one of those things where once, put in a lot of the work and put in a lot of the effort, I mean, it becomes, when you start to see those results, it does become addicting. And then you realize like, hey, this really does have a purpose. But I mean, being that you started long ago, in the health and fitness industry, in your opinion, how has the fitness industry changed over time since you started?
Just with more women being more open to lifting heavier and just with the whole competition. I mean, I did one show in my life 10, 12 years ago, and I did figure. So
Mhm.
now what I did is figure would be considered bikini. So
Mhm.
it's evolved so much now that bikini is girls with a lot of muscle. It's grown so much from there.
Yeah, and I just like all of the different trends that always hop up over the years. Like I always say, like there's a different diet, there's a different fad, every single year that people just seem to hop onto. Which I mean, it's hard for a lot of people then too to just realize, what works best for them. But when you were becoming an instructor, what was that process like? I mean, did you just all of a sudden, and what made you choose to become a cyclist and a yoga instructor? Were there just two things that you really enjoyed?
Well, back in 2000 is when I started. After I quit the Secret Service in 2002, I had already been at the gym, and then I started taking cycling, and I fell in love with the indoor cycling immediately. So that's my first certification. Then from there, I got hired as a group exercise manager at Gold's Gym in Virginia, and I basically got certified in body pump. I got certified in Pilates. I got certified in ripped. I mean, I've had probably 10, 12 certifications that I've gotten. And then my last one was yoga because I used to not like yoga. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't sit still before Shavasana. I would leave. I was that much, I don't have time. I don't have time. And now it's the total opposite. Yoga gives back time. It doesn't take
Mhm.
time out of your day. It gives back time to you. It gives back time to your family, your friends, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I actually have a friend who actually she does spin classes. She's an instructor for that, and it's just, yeah, I don't know. For me personally, like you would need to give me about 10 cups of coffee for me to have that energy to be a spin instructor. I mean, you got to be really really high energy. Now, not saying that I'm not, but I'm just saying to be able to get up and do that. I mean, that takes a lot of courage. But also, I mean, when you were getting started, what is that process like, just finding out what works best for you when it comes to teaching a class? Because I mean, every cyclist instructor, every yoga instructor, I mean, you have your own playlist, you have your own techniques that you like to use. I mean, was it just something where you just decided based on what worked best for you, and then you had a lot of trial and error of seeing what worked best for the people that you were training with? Or was it just something where it was just a lot of trial and error?
I would say trial and error. When I first started teaching cycle, I am 180-degree turn where I am now. I mean, now we're doing push-ups in class. We're doing a lot of balance, so weights, and even that. So when I first started, it was like you're riding a bike on the street. Add some tension, stand up, sprint, heavy climb. Now it involves everything from one arm going up and over your head, or lifting weights, and using a towel to do some strength training on the bike, and taking other people's classes and just constantly learning every day. And music has changed. You want to cater to your audience, and just you can't please everybody. So I just try to put a little bit in there, and people give me feedback. I take constructive criticism. I've heard, I don't like your music, or I don't like this routine that you've done in yoga. You just have to take it every class at a time, and just constantly learn and constantly try to add new things and keep everyone happy.
So when you're talking about doing push-ups while cycling, are these people like just using the handlebars, or what are they doing? Because I don't know. Are they like? So how does that work?
Well, it all started with Soul Cycle in New
Uh-huh.
York City, and when I first heard push-ups on a bike, I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
shake my head. And until I tried it, oh, your triceps burn, your shoulders are on fire. And yeah, you're using the handlebars as resistance, either seated or standing, but getting a stretch on the tricep and a squeeze on the tricep when you go down and up, and using those arms, makes the class less boring too. But I mean, you still have the old school people that just want to ride like they're riding a road bike, which, hey, they have their modifications. They don't have to do a single push up if they don't want. It's just you're working your upper and your lower body together, and you're using your core. So even if you're doing a push up, you can contract your core as you're flexing your spine a little bit.
So like all these movements that you're talking about, so the people are still like pedaling and they're still riding their bike while they're doing stuff with like the towels, or they're doing the push-ups, or they're doing, like other things. So they're still basically riding, and then they're just doing all the other accessory stuff to get like a full body burn basically.
Yes.
That's awesome, because I honestly, yeah, just to get that full body workout. I mean, and it takes less time too. These people don't have to go and lift weights afterwards. Get that upper body burn. So yeah, that's actually something that I'd really recommend then for people to at least give a try, because it does sound very very interesting. But one of the most important things that I love to talk about, I mean, we talked about like the myth about gaining too much muscle just by trying out, but probably the biggest thing that I love to talk about that affects women so much more than I think it does men in a positive way is just the confidence boost that working out, weight training can give you. Because let's face it, there are some guys, they walk into the gym like they just own the place, and I mean that's just how it is sometimes. But then especially for women, just that confidence boost, and I always say that confidence boost is one of those rare things that you can take from the gym and apply to every single aspect in your life. What has that been like for you? Just that boost in confidence that you've gotten just from working out, and how has that applied to other areas in your life?
Well, I've always been confident, and being in that gym, I love it. I mean, I have to work out every day. I don't have to lift every day, but I have to be active a few hours a day. And I'm not talking just one, a few. Being in the gym, and I have people approach me all the time and asking for advice and help, and I'm nice. I don't walk around with a mean look on my face in the gym. I talk to people. I work there, and most people aren't afraid to come up to me and talk either. And I don't even wear headphones much to work out, because I talk to people as I'm working out.
So, I mean, I was gonna wait until the end to reveal this, but with your age, I mean, how are you able to look like this? I mean, what are your secrets? What do you have? Like, what is in the treasure chest? Like, how do people, find? Like, is it just for you? Is it just all of that hard work? Because people don't realize. I mean, muscle memory and just building that, mature muscle that people like to talk about. Has that really just been your story as to how you're able to look like this at your age? Because let's face it, you look better than 99.999, like repeating about 10 more nines percent of women your age. How has that been like for you?
Well, I give a lot of thanks to my mom, because she's 72, and she probably could pass for my sister. Probably mid 50s or so. And just how you act too. I mean, I think you only look as old as you look. I'm sorry, you only look as old as you act and feel. And I feel like I'm in my 20s. Luckily I don't have any aches and pains yet from all the lifting. I think I've done everything pretty correctly. I mean, blown out a knee or two in sports, but it doesn't hold me back from anything. And just I get abs till I was in my 30s. So some people can't get them. Some people can't get a six pack. Some people can't get a V. It's just your body. People want, oh, I want your body. I want, well, you can't. You don't have my body. You don't have my. Everybody's different. You just got to go with what you have and not be scared to lift heavy, because it's going to burn more fat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, everyone just going look at her Instagram page. I mean, I saw one video where she was doing like pull-ups with like 20 pounds added weight. She's doing like six of them, and I was like, okay, that's not even fair. It's not even fair. It's like let's just. It's like that's absolutely ridiculous. But what advice do you have? I mean, especially for people that are older that are trying to get started, because I've had guests, that have started like in their 50s, and I mean, they look so amazing when they're in even their 60s. What advice do you have, especially for older people that are getting started? Because I mean, luckily, like you said, you don't have any of those aches and pains, but some people do. I mean, as you get older, your body isn't as strong as it used to be. But what advice do you have for people that are older, starting out, in order for them to, just reach their goals and really, have a better life for themselves?
You can look your best at any age. You just have to put the work in and be and continue with it. You need to not stop. And with eating, it's protein. People need to eat a lot of protein. I'm not talking, double your body weight or anything, but I aim for my body weight of protein every day. And I get it, and just listening to your body, most importantly. If it hurts, stop. If it doesn't, keep going. And if you need a break, take a break. If it's, if it's not, if you can't do 8, drop the weight.
No, yeah, it's just for so many people, everyone's body's different. So I mean, just finding that right amount can be hard for some people, but it's not easy. I mean, I'm just gonna be completely honest out there for anyone out there. It's not gonna be easy, but I mean, it's gonna be so worth it when you end up seeing the results. But two of the questions that I love to ask for all my health and fitness guests that I have on the podcast. I mean, for the first one, I mean, there were so many positive things for me when I was going to the gym and getting started out. But one of the negative things is that you're gonna get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. I mean, I'm still home with my parents for the next couple of months before I move out. I'm saving up. And every time they come home with groceries, I basically have to lift the car into the driveway. Has that been a similar experience with you where people just take one look at you and then they just assume that you can do favors for them?
Yeah, and I like for my friends to ask me to help them because I would want them to help me if I needed it.
Yeah, I mean, I just say for me, I also say it's a double-edged sword. I mean, being 6'3", because I always say like even if I had no muscle at all, they'd say, "Oh, tall guy can do it." So then, yeah, it's always so that's one thing that I really had to get used to. But like I said, it's like you said too. I mean, I it was bad at first, but then once I got used to it, I was like, okay, they do recognize that I work out and that I take good care of myself. So I mean you can't really tell now because like I always say up in Minnesota, you got to put on like 10 to 15 pounds of fat, every winter if you want to survive. Because when it gets to be like negative 20 degrees, you do not want to be lean and walk outside. It's not going to be a good time. You're going to turn into a human popsicle. But yeah, I mean, just with a lot of things, I mean, the public perception of people, can really change, especially when you really better yourself. But my favorite question to ask by far, and again, this is a multi-million dollar idea for anyone out there who's looking to make money. But when it comes to clothes for fit women, I always love to say, I mean, your clothing options can be limited. I mean, fit guys have their own problems too, but fit women have specific problems. Like I always like to say, if you have big, broad shoulders, dresses aren't your best friend. Jeans are another thing that we hear of all the time. Where I mean, if you have a big lower body and a small waist, jeans are not made for that. What have been some ways that you have found that you're able to compensate for the fact that your clothing options can be very limited?
Well, anybody that knows me knows the less clothes I have on, the happier I am.
Mhm,
So the summertime, I hike in bikinis. I hike. I walk at my house. I have a private hill that I walk in my bikini because I don't want tan lines.
mhm.
If I'm wearing a bikini, I don't want tan lines. I wear short shorts to the gym. In the winter, I wear high socks to keep me warm. I wear sports bras in the gym, and I'm comfortable. It keeps me accountable, and I know some people frown on that, but some people would be like, "Oh, I would wear that too if I
Yeah.
could." And
Well, and plus, like I always say, you got to go sleeveless. You got to let those guns breathe because basically, I mean, it's like when you work that hard, it's like you got to show it off. So it's just that's what I always love to say is just and find your own thing too. I mean, it's like workout clothes, yeah, they work just fine. But I always say, for anyone out there, if you're looking to make some money, I mean, I have all these guests that are more than willing. If you make like dresses or anything like that, that I mean, are just for fit women or suits for fit guys. I mean, it's a gold mine out there. So get on it. But I mean, I love to ask because there are so many times that we see these, fit transformations on Instagram and we see, what it's like for the person making the transformation just because they're like, "Oh my God, it's so amazing, all these changes," but we never hear what it's like for the trainer. What is that feeling like for you? I mean, when you see people who you've worked with, who, have achieved their goals and they've really gotten into good shape, what is that feeling like for you knowing that you have played a huge part in them, making that lifestyle change?
oh, there's almost nothing better than that. Seeing people get faster on their bike, seeing them, being able to lift out of the saddle, losing a couple of pounds that they wanted to, gaining muscle, lifting a certain weight that they've never been able to lift before. I mean, it's just great because, like you said before, once you see results, it becomes an addiction, and That's you do the result, the work, the results that will handle themselves.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. But what is your nutrition like? I mean, if you were to go through an average day, I mean, what do you normally like to eat, and what do you like to recommend for people just who are getting started? Just the nutritional changes that they should make, because I mean, we do have an obesity crisis where I mean, people, it's a lot of it's fast food, a lot of it's just other things that are high fructose corn syrup or just all these other things. But what is your diet like, and what do you like to tell other people who are just getting started?
My diet's pretty boring. I pretty much eat the same thing every day. I do the intermittent fasting, and I've been doing that as long as I can remember. And I just found out a few years ago that it's actually a thing. So I don't eat in the morning until after I work out, and then I eat. So I
Mhm,
fast probably about 16 and eat about 8. So,
mhm,
but I'm eating that whole 8 hours, pretty much snacking the whole day. But I eat my homemade protein bars after I work out, and I've given that recipe out to hundreds of
mhm,
people. And it's just my vegan protein powder, chia seed, flaxseed, TB2, which is the powdered peanut butter, coconut flour, just old fashioned oats, and chocolate chips, and I add water.
mhm. That sounds good, yeah. But then what do you like to recommend for people too who are getting started?
Try to aim for, gosh, 80% protein of your body weight. So if you weigh 100
Mhm,
pounds, eat 80 grams. I mean,
mhm,
the closer to your body weight, it's going to be better. I mean, that protein feeds your muscle, and
mhm,
people have the whole misconception of, fat's the enemy in diet. It's really sugar. And
mhm.
but my problem is I eat a lot of sugar, but I work out a lot to compensate for that.
Mhm. Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, obviously we can tell. But one of the big questions that I like to ask as well, because I mean, I had the number one sleep specialist on the planet come on, and first of all, he was from Oxford, and he had one of those British accents where you just felt smarter just from talking to him. Where I was just gonna tell him, I was like, okay, you're just gonna talk the entire time because I feel like I'm gaining like 10 IQ points just listening to your voice, because yeah, it was awesome. But we were talking about how important sleep is, and I said, I have a lot of health and fitness people that come on, and it's really huge for them too. How much sleep do you like to get, and how much do you like to recommend for people, because sleep is the number one thing when it comes to recovery, and I mean, it's just so vital for people. So what's the amount of sleep that you try to get on an average day?
I would say 7 to 8 minimum.
Yeah.
So important. That's where your muscles are recovering and they're rebuilding. That's so important.
And I always say, I mean, there's no better feeling in the world than after you've went, like really hard and heavy for one day working out, and you've got just a huge workout in, and then you go to sleep, and then you wake up well rested. That is, I mean, there's no better feeling in the world of knowing that, like, oh my God, I feel you feel just amazing. And for me too, I mean, I think I got like 5 hours last night, but that's just because I was, editing podcasts and doing a lot of work. But it's entirely worth it. I mean, I'll get a lot of sleep tonight after I come home from work. But yes, again, everyone, sleep is just so important to people, right? Just to anything that, and just with happiness too. I mean, you wake up, you can feel cranky, but like you said, you like to eat a lot of sugar too. What types of sugars are we talking about? Are we just talking about like your basic sugars, like in sweets, or is it just just like sugar and coffee? What is the type of sugar that you like?
I don't drink coffee or any type of caffeine. I never have needed it. So people ask me why I have energy. I guess because I get enough sleep and
Mhm.
I listen to my body and take a nap when I need to. Luckily, I have the time to do that. But sugar, gummy bears, chocolate covered gummy bears, chocolate chips from my cabinet when I'm making my protein bars, and I just keep going back and forth to them. Chocolate
Mhm.
covered fruit. That's pretty much what I eat almost every day.
Mhm. Yeah, that's totally awesome. But now I gotta ask, what is the temperature like now in Sacramento?
It's about low 60s today and finally sunny. We've had probably 5, 6 weeks of rain.
Poor you guys. I feel so sorry for you guys in 60-degree California. Oh my God, it must be so rough. No, I'm just joking, but yeah, for us, I think it's like it's very hot for us in this time of year. I think it's like 25 right now, but we just got about like 12 inches of snow last weekend. And yeah, so that's why I always like to ask the temperature, because it does make me a little bit more happier as I'll go out to my car and drive to work today and just realize, hey, someplace in the world that things are better than they are. But yeah, and has your workout changed at all since you moved to the West Coast? Because I mean, let's face it, being on the East Coast during the winter, I mean, you're not gonna be able to go outside and go for runs, or you can go for runs, but I mean, it's not that smart. But has it changed at all? I mean, are you a lot more active outdoors now that you're on the West Coast and you can go outdoors, year round?
Yeah, for sure. When I was on the East Coast, I would run and I would just bundle up. I mean, it never got too horrible there, in Virginia, but here and what's changed the most is me walking. I'll walk a minimum of 2 hours a day outside. And then I have luxury of having pull-up bars in my house, a rowing machine, a bunch of kettlebells, a couple tractor tires. So some days I just don't go to the gym and I say, I'm just gonna stay here and work out. I'll just do 300 pull-ups today and walk 10 miles.
And she's not joking when she says that. If you look at her Instagram, you will get pissed off and you'll be like, okay, this isn't even fair. Like, it's like, come on, people. This is ridiculous. But now we go to our audience favorite, my personal favorite part of the podcast, a little questionnaire. We're going to ask Teri here about a dozen or so health and fitness questions that we ask all of our guests. And we're going to see how our answers stack up to everyone else that we've had on the show. So for our first question, I was going to say, what is your go-to workout song? But you said that you don't listen to music as much. So I'm just going to skip that one. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg, yep. He's one of our more popular answers, but I don't know, he has just that absolute crazy workout where he'll wake up at like 3:30 in the morning or whatever, and he'll have a work. I mean, and then he like goes golfing at like 6 a.m. and by then he's already got his workout done. He's already like got a lot of other things done. Where he goes to bed at like 7 o'clock, and I'm like, geez, dude, like what? I mean, but that would be insane too. I mean, so I have a funny story. So they opened Wahlburgers, his burger place that he runs with his brothers. They opened one at the Mall of America where I'm in Bloomington, Minnesota. So I'm right there at the biggest mall in the country. So we went to that, and we met Donnie was there, and then Mark was there, but we didn't get to say hi to him. But we met Donnie. So yeah, it was really really fun. But one thing I always say about Mark Wahlberg that whenever people mention that is that people don't realize how short he is. He's like 5'3". So when I was because I was standing next to him, I didn't get to say hi, but I was saying hi to his brother. I'm a full foot taller than he is. So I was just like, wow, like that's different. Like, and that's one thing that I say too about sometimes, it's just funny just to hear, like how tall celebrities really are, because I'd figure out that I'd be like one of the tallest celebrities there because there's only like Jeff Goldblum's like the only one that's taller than me. And I actually talked to his wife last week, but that was really, really cool. But anyway, so now out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
Well, it's putting me on the spot. I'd probably just say him again because he has a nice gym in his house.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this is why it's called DD on the spot. I mean, that's why we got the nickname. But yeah, so yeah, Mark Wahlberg again. Yeah, that would definitely be great. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Oh, Greek yogurt. I eat it with my protein every day. But not that plain.
Yeah. We hear that all the time, Greek yogurt. I mean, that's one of our more popular answers, other than, like chicken and egg whites. But the most shocking answer for me by far is that mustard. I mean, because a lot of these bodybuilders that we have on, or a lot of these people that are really into health and fitness, when they're dieting down, mustard has like 0 in calories, 0 in fat. So they just, put it on everything that they eat. And I always say to that, you might want to reevaluate your life if you're doing that. Because I don't know, I'm not a huge mustard guy myself, but yeah, that was definitely one of the most shocking answers. But now you already answered. I mean, I always ask, out of all of your followers, what is one thing that you think they'd be surprised to know about you if they met you in person? And I'll just answer it for Secret Service. I mean, I had no idea.
I have another one.
Well, okay, so what is it?
I was a corrections officer for the California Department of Corrections, and I was on the hostage negotiation team.
Wow.
Okay. Only for a couple months before I quit.
but still, that's just okay. Yeah, she's a hostage negotiator. So now we can finally check that off the list too for guests that we've had on the show and what they do. But yeah, I mean, honestly, and I mean that's why I mean just doing this podcast is just so fun for me, because you have people like that I'll find on Instagram that I have no idea that they have this background, and then you have them on, and then you have them on just for, like for you, it was just, like how, like what was your fitness dream, what it was like, and then you find out that you're in the Secret Service and that you're also a hostage negotiator. I mean, that's what I love finding about people, because you really get to like peel back the layers and find out stuff. So, I mean, again, everyone go and look her up on Instagram. I highly recommend it. But now going back to our questionnaire, what is the last TV show that you binge watched?
Oh, there's been a couple. The one I like the most that I binge watched is probably the one with Jason Bateman.
Arrested Development?
No, the one that's on Netflix.
I'm trying to think. I think I know what you're talking about, but it's off my head. I can't remember it. But I will keep thinking. I'll just move on, and then if we think of it, we'll just blurt it out. But for me, it was that was on Netflix, because everyone was talking about. All my guests were just recommending it, so I finally caved in and watched that. But now, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Favorite TV show? Holy Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, I am going to be completely honest, and don't hate me for this. I have never seen Sons of Anarchy. I mean, I've seen all the promos for it. I've had people talk about it, so that's definitely one of those shows that I think once I have a lot of free time, I will definitely get into, because I mean it does look super interesting. We've heard so many good things about it as well that I mean I definitely think I'll look into that. But now everyone has one. What is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
Billy Madison.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, that is one of my favorite movies. And as I have a lot of friends that are teachers now, I make so many Billy Madison jokes with them that I mean, it's yeah, I that's one of those movies where it's just like it's one of those premises where you think it's so stupid that it would never get made into a movie, but then it gets made into a movie and then it's absolutely hilarious, and then you're like, yeah, that's the golden age of Adam Sandler, not like the stuff that he's making right now. But yeah, it's yeah, that movie is one of those movies where whenever it comes on, I drop whatever I'm doing and watching. But again, everyone, my guilty pleasure movie, and everyone, close your ears, all my guy friends, you'll never hear me admit this in person, but Princess Bride is my guilty pleasure movie. I mean, whenever it comes on, I'll stop what I'm doing, I'll watch it. I mean, I even when I was writing my thesis paper in college, it came on and I stopped what I was doing and I watched it. And if that isn't dedication, I don't know what is, stopping your thesis paper to watch a movie. But yes, that is mine. And now our two final questions on the questionnaire. So now, what is your favorite fashion trend of all time and least favorite fashion trend of all time?
Oh gosh, favorite fashion trend. Well, my favorite's got to be booty shorts
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
daisy boots. Favorite's probably got to be that, and then least favorite, probably bell bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That is one of our most popular answers as well, bell bottom jeans. And I mean, for me, it's got to be, flannel's got to be my favorite, just because being up in Minnesota and being how cold it is, you are going to need to have some flannel on. And then my least favorite, I mean, my dad ruined this in the late 90s. I still look back at photos and I cringe, is, fanny packs. It's like, come on. It's like, we got to stop. Now, don't get me wrong. Women can rock fanny packs. That's one of those things where, yeah, with women, 100%. But yeah, with guys, yeah, that's one of those things where I was like, okay, come on now. Let's be honest. But now I actually forgot a question, so we still have two questions on the questionnaire. So now, if someone were to walk up to you and say, Terry, we the world has decided that, I mean, you can change one thing about the health and fitness industry and everyone will go along with it. I mean, if you had the all-knowing power to do that, what would be one thing about the health and fitness industry that you would like to see changed?
To see change, or to get me to get someone to do?
We could do either way, yeah.
Okay. Well, what I would want to change is for everyone to go take yoga.
Mhm.
Everyone needs to stretch. It's the most. There's 4 aspects of physical fitness: strength training, nutrition, cardiovascular, and flexibility. If you're missing one, you can't get the best you.
100%. I've never tried yoga, but I've heard, that's honestly one of those things that I am actually looking into, just because, I mean, with my height, I always figured like I could not be flexible at all. But then, like we just said, you just busted that, where you say everyone says that they can't, that they aren't flexible, or that's one of the biggest excuses. And you say, well, you know what? Neither. It's just one of those things that you have to develop as well. And I do sometimes, just editing these podcasts and going to work too, I have that stress where I was just like, okay, yeah, I definitely need to go and do yoga or do something like that. So yeah, again, I highly recommend that. But now for our last question of the questionnaire, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
To invest in Facebook.
Yeah, that too. Actually, I'd say Microsoft
Yeah, or Apple.
or Apple. Yeah. Yeah, that would or Amazon, either. I mean, yeah, that. And finally, we have someone who would go and say something like that to them, because I've always had people would be like, "Oh yeah, just like live, have a better life," just stuff like that. And I'll be like, "Hell no!" I would have a stock sheet with like everything from like what it would look like, and I'll be like, "At this date, invest this amount of money and do all that." Yeah, I would. Yeah, and then I'd come back, but yeah, that would definitely be fun to do. But now these two final questions before we wrap things up on the podcast. So, I mean, if we were to talk to you a year from now, where would you like to be at with, I mean, your career with as an instructor? Where would you like to be at in life? I mean, what are some goals that you have this year that you would like to see achieved?
Well, I'm just trying to get more classes on my schedule, and there's actually a couple more certs that I'm getting. I'm getting lifeguard certified so I can teach aqua, and I'm going to be teaching senior fitness also at my club. So just expanding a little bit more certifications to teach and reach different age groups.
That's awesome, and honestly, we wish you nothing but the best. And now, lastly, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
My friend Jen for letting me use her house.
Shout out to Jen, everyone who didn't know that. I mean, we had to use her house and everything, so she has been a big part with us. But again, you guys, Teri Nicole, we cannot thank you enough for being on the show. And everyone, go and give her a follow on Instagram. I mean, just looking at some of her posts, I mean, you're going to be inspired to get off the couch, stop eating all those Twinkies and, get into shape. But again, you guys, go and give her a follow. I highly, highly recommend it. I'll leave a link to all of her stuff down below. And lastly, for just if anyone were to walk up to you on the street and say like, "Oh my God, you look amazing, you look great. I want to sort of get in shape and adapt a more healthy and fit lifestyle," what would be the best piece of advice you would give them just to get started?
Walk an hour a day.
Hmm. Yeah. Honestly, that is one of the things that I've heard too a lot of times too, is just getting that walking because it slowly develops. And I mean, you get used to that physical activity. I mean, I have a job where I'm walking constantly. So, I get that entirely. But again, you guys, Teri Nicole, we cannot thank you enough for being on the show. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.